And as you have just seen today, we're going to be ranking the 10 best driving cars in CDT. Now, they may not handle the best, some of them, but they all handle amazingly. Oh, the road is not loading. But the feel they give is sublime, and they're also they're basically nice to drive. They bring a smile to the face of everyone driving them. I'm looking at 3 criteria here. How well they handle in general, so yes, handling does matter. How nicely they are to drive, obviously. And also how good they are to drift. Now, to get this straight, how good they are to drift doesn't just mean they can slide infinitely. I mean, they can also bring the drift back. They're easy and fun. Okay? So, without further ado, let's get on with the ranking. I know it doesn't handle as well as some other cars in its class, according to its number ranking. But to drive, there is simply nothing else like it on the road. Every single time I'm behind the wheel, it brings me happiness. Flowing through the corners, it feels just. It's an absolute rocket ship of a hot hatchback. You can take it on rallies, you can take it into the mountains, you can slide with it. It is so much fun. And it's unfortunately relatively uncommon. This was part of an event back at the start of this current map, the rally event, where it started alongside the Subaru Impreza 22B. That car's rated as 0.2 handling above it. However, I massively disagree with that. I say this thing handles better. It flows from corner to corner much better. It's much more fun. It brings a feeling of excitement around it. I have just spun it. Skill 1000. There is something just magical about it. A proper Lancia. Straight from Italy. What a brilliant car. Yes, we are completely ignoring the handling rating today. This one's only rated as a 7.5. Sod that, I think it handles amazingly. Does require a little bit of effort to keep on top of, but that only adds to the character. And character is something this car has in bags full. Completely amazing. This thing flows from bend to bend really well. Braking is something that you look forward to. It's an event. It gives you confidence. It literally eggs you on. It says, push me harder, brake more, turn in earlier, brake later. Yes, it is supposedly worse handling than some of the other cars in its class. No, it just requires more effort to keep on top of. And to be honest, I think that's a good thing in a car. There's no use in having a car that effectively drives itself. That's not fun. This is fun. It has oodles of power, feels just brilliant, and even looks good. Glad you can get it sideways as well. What a perfect car. Well, obviously not perfect, but well, you can see why I drive one daily. Can't you? Your choice to pick, but I promise you it's worth it. Hear me out. Convertible. They tend to be pretty decent to drive in this. This car has loads of character. It's got a big V12 up the front, dropped roof, little spoiler sticking up at the back, oodles of character. That already puts it up to a good start. I've just thunked it into a tree. It's also rear-wheel drive. That tends to help things. You can slide this thing so effortlessly. It's not even funny. By which I mean it's hilarious how easy you can slide it. Effortless power up the straight. Also feels relatively eager to drift. But obviously you can keep it in check with not much of a problem. Through corners, feels sublime. Like, seriously sublime. You can learn to drive this thing with a little bit of time, but not much. And then once you learn how to drive this thing, well, you're going to have a lot of fun, and you're going to love every moment of it. A great number 8. What a surprise, it's another legendary name in the Porsche world. This one absolutely lives up to the badge. The GT3s have been the best Porsches to drive for quite a while. They're not as loony as the GT2s and the GT2 RSs. They're not as stupidly track focused as the GT3 RSs that we so love, me included. They're the perfect blend of all of them, wrapped up in a unsuspecting Porsche body. And it shows so much with the 992. This car is so completely brilliant. You can drive it, you can pedal it hard, and it will absolutely be rewarding. Braking late isn't punished. Sliding is encouraged. Unfortunately, I lack the skill. This is such a brilliant Porsche. I'm not surprised that in the real world, they've sold out. Because if they all behave like this one, I'd buy 10. Unfortunately, I don't have the money. So, can anyone float me anything? You know, just a couple of $100,000. Nothing much, promise. Yeah, these are one of my favourite cars right now. Perfect driver's cars. They're even great to look at. And when you get to the sliding, well, as I mentioned, it is really good. Easy to turn in, easy to get the back going, easy to get it to stop going. Perfect car. What a great job, Porsche, even if you didn't actually make this car in CDT. Well done. I know. In my video talking about my dailies, this is obviously one of them, I complained that it didn't have as much character as the original Mark 1. However, what I was doing is massively over-exaggerating. Yes, it does have less, but that's like saying, oh, I don't want a Chiron, I want a Chiron 300 plus. The Chiron's got less power. It's barely less character. And you know what? It makes up for that in being brilliant. On a scale of how nice it is to drive, this thing breaks the scale, and it's the first of the few that do that. Suspension, nice and supple. Not too hard, not too soft, just right. Goldilocks. Drifting. Well, I can't drift, but with a bit of practice, you can get this thing sideways and back again pretty well. Unfortunately, I lack the skill to do so. So yeah, it does get a little bit marked down there, but I promise you it makes up for it massively in all the other areas. To drive, perfection. What a brilliant car to drive. If you haven't driven one of these, if you don't have one of these either, ask a friend if they've got one, and if they do, ask to borrow it. Take it to a mountain road and thrash the nuts off the thing. It will be one of the most rewarding experiences you do. And then as well as this, you've also got, it's quite powerful. 190 miles an hour now it's tuned. That's pretty quick. And yet speed doesn't even matter for this. Makes up for it in corners. Corners are this thing's home. And at home, it's unstoppable. What a brilliant, brilliant car. It's a shame you can't get them anymore, because they're a season car and they will never return, probably. Oh well, sucks for those that didn't get it. Well, I've made a video on this already when it came out, where I mentioned how great it was to drive. And now I'm making a video on the cars that are nicest to drive. It's an excuse to talk about it again. Power, plentiful. Handling, sublime. Drifting, on par with the greatest. No, that's no exaggeration either. So good to drift, it's not even funny. Suspension, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Perfectly supple. Like the MX-5s, but even more so. Gears. It's got 6 of them, I think. Good number of gears. Gears make it feel much nicer. Oh no, it's got 7. More gears the merrier. I'm kidding. But still, great on the track, great in the mountains, great everywhere. One of the best cars I've driven, and I've driven the Cayman GT4. Feels just like that, so Cayman GT4 gets an honourable mention. In fact, this thing can be driven by anyone, I would say. It's so easy to learn how to drive. You just turn and it'll go where you want it to. No fuss, no procrastination, no argument. It doesn't try and fight you. It just does what it's told. And it does what it's told incredibly well. What a brilliant, brilliant car. I had originally planned to put the 458 in this spot, and then I realised there's an even better version. The 458 itself is an already great car. I mean, seriously, a force to be reckoned with everywhere. Then Foxy gave us this. The 458 turned up to 11, the Speciale. It's faster, it's lighter, it's got a stripe, it handles better, it does everything the 458 can do, and then some. And the 458 is already a pretty amazing car. This one takes it to the next level though. Great to drive, I mean seriously brilliant. You're just right on the edge. Just able to realise when you might crash. This thing will tell you when you're going to crash as well. It practically talks to you, because the feedback from the wheel, well, not the physical wheel, but you know what I mean. feedback, you're basically driving from your fingertips. And to be honest, that's exactly what you want from a car. Driving pleasure. And this thing has it in... I can't stress how much it has. Drifting, that's not a problem. See that? That's the back coming round. No problem. One of the best cars in the game, I would say. And that's no exaggeration. Also, I'd say this is probably the best Ferrari ever made. But then we get controversial. So, let's ignore that. Bit of a controversial choice, I will admit. This is a very forgotten car in CDT circles. Out of all the versions of the M3 in CDT, this one's probably the least remembered. Which is a shame because I think it's the best out of all of them. It doesn't have the stupid OTT grille of the G80. It's not... It's close to the E30, by which I mean the E30 is close to it, but it's slightly better. This thing is a joy. Mountain roads, E90 M3, CDT, absolute perfection. Just so much feedback from the wheel. The nose goes wherever you want it to. And sliding, oh, just you wait. Sliding's on another level. I have to admit, I completely forgot about this car the moment it was released. It was an early season, it was a season car, but it was early on in the season. And as a result of that, completely forgot it. And only recently have I started driving it again. And now I'm driving it a lot. It's so good, it's easy to drive. Mainly. It's perfect. Okay, maybe it's not perfect. If it was perfect, it would be able to beat a bollard on track or something. But, you know, to drive, there is nothing like it. Well, apart from these next couple of cars. Today, I would have put this legend at the top of the list. But it loses out by one. But let's talk about it, because this is still an absolutely jaw-dropping car. I mean, this thing is so unbelievably good. Oh, P1, nice. So unbelievably good, it feels unreal. Lotus have always been amazing at putting out good handling cars. This thing takes it to the next level. I feel so good every time I'm in this car. The world fixes itself just a little bit. Every time, you know, I get the tail out, I brake deeply. I have so much fun. I desperately need this car. It's like a drug. I'm kidding. But it is so good. So incredibly good. Drifting, not a problem. I say not a problem, and I crash. That means it's not a problem. Just means I have a skill issue. Every time, you know, you steer and it goes exactly where you want to. There's loads of people at my dealer. It feels poised. It feels precise. That is an original G-Wagon 6x6. Nice. Oh no, that's not my dealer. This is my one. It's just so good. Seriously. I can't believe that there would be something that's able to top this. In fact, if you'd have told me yesterday there's something better than this, I would have said, you're lying. And guess what? There is. Before we get to number 1, I thought I'd put in some honourable mentions. Cars that very nearly made this list, but not quite. The first of which is the Porsche 911 RWB, the 964 one. Very, very close. The next of which is the Ariel Nomad. Again, likewise. And then there's also, and this one's a weird one, the Ford Mustang GT Fastback from the 1960s. Yes, I thought it was weird as well, but it is actually great. The Nissan 2000. Yep, that weird 70s car. I like it. And also, finally, the Lotus Elise. This was probably the closest to the list. Very, very nearly missed out. But at least the Exige is in there, hey? Right, let's get on to the last car. But first, a little bit of backstory to this car. See, today I was in Mid's server, and we were doing race cars. We were racing, 7 of us on the circuit race. And we were all doing race cars from a certain race series. I'm not going to say the race series, that'll give it away. But after they'd all gone, and I was using the best car from that series in the game. But when they'd all gone, there was just another guy in a Merc. So I decided to pick a BMW to go against the Merc. And that because, you know, they're also quite similar. Old season cars, pretty forgotten. No one really has much care for them. And as I was driving this car, it suddenly dawned on me that this was the best driving car in CDT. And it had evaded me for a long, long time. Not rated as the best handling. Not even the best handling GT3 car, supposedly. But the best one to drive. It is immaculate. It always feels like it wants to slide. And that is a good thing. If it's noticeably trying to fight you, but you can tell that that's just making things better. And it's not even... It feels like it's fighting you, but it also doesn't. Then that is a recipe for success. The back comes out while you brake steer, when you trail brake in this. You accelerate and it goes like hell. You turn in, the nose goes exactly where you want it to. You lift, and it's great. I can't believe this thing evaded me for so long. It was right under my nose that I had the best driving car in the game. And I forgot about it. How? I don't even realise how it evaded me, because I drove this car quite a lot in the season it was released. So how did it evade me? Maybe it was buffed. We will never know. But all I know is, I'm glad I discovered it today, as I was making this video. Kind of. Well done, BMW. So that's the list. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have some of these cars, and I also hope you didn't know about how brilliant they were. Because now you do, and now you can enjoy them, and I've helped you in some way.